Hi friends in my class, friends down the hall, teachers, parents, students, anyone who wants to review volume. I made this channel to help during the quarantine. It'll be here forever. Use it whenever you want. If you have a question you want me to cover, connollymathathome@gmail.com. Just remember that's an O there. Sometimes it's spelled E-L-L-Y, but not for me. Any questions you want me to cover, I'm starting with 5th grade, but I can work on any grade level. So let's get started. In my last video, I went over volume of a rectangular prism. That's the 5th grade standard. Once we go over a volume of a rectangular prism, then we start tackling this situation here, which is the volume of an irregular solid. So let's do some reminders. When we are finding volume of a rectangular prism, there's length times width times height. There is also, that's how you find the volume of a rectangular prism. There's also another formula when we think about the base times height. We will not be using that one in this video, but if you watch my video on finding the volume of a rectangular prism, it goes over that there. Okay, so what we have here is the volume, or a irregular solid, but I color coded it because we want to use what we know to find the volume of this. And you know how to find the volume of an irregular solid, you know how to find the volume of a rectangular prism, so we're going to use that to find the volume of the irregular solid. So in my classroom, I'm going to remind you what we learned, maybe back in October, it was a long time ago. I like to identify my two different prisms and label them prism A and prism B. I like to keep track of my work. I want to know what is what. So I'll label this blue one A, and I'm going to label the red, I don't know, I wrote it myself, the red one B. Okay, so we're going to be thinking about finding the volume of prism A. We're going to be thinking about finding the volume of prism B. In order to find the volume of the entire thing, we have to combine the volumes at the end. So I broke up the prism for us in this one. I will attempt to draw another one that's not color coded later on. We'll see how it goes. But maybe we'll just use this one for the purposes of how long it took me to draw an irregular solid. So in the last video, I went over some important things: length, width, and height. I'm going to go over it one more time because it's impossible to solve without understanding these things. When we think about width, we're going to be thinking about how wide something is. Okay? When we think about length, we're going to be thinking how long it is. And I like to think of length as the dimension that goes back into the paper. Okay? See how I'm color coding, friends? And then I like to think about height. Well, the only way to think about height is how tall something is. So that is going to be labeled here. Okay? So I'm going to label this in blue here. When you're given you're going to see all these different numbers. It's really hard. They're going to be extra numbers. You need to identify, where do you see the width for rectangular prism A? Where do you see the length for rectangular prism A? And where do you see the height for rectangular prism A? Okay, that's really going to be really important because we need to find the volume of this, and then we have to identify the dimensions of B, find the volume of this, and then combine. Okay, so let me get some numbers up in here, and we're going to start, and we'll find the volume of the entire rectangular prism. All right, so for prism A, I'm going to give us a length, width, and height. Let's do 8. I'll do feet this time. I did inches last time. I want you to see that it's not always going to be labeled inches cubed. And we'll label this 6 feet. Okay, so we're going to be working with these numbers over here. And then we will be working with 4 feet, and we'll talk about why I'm choosing 4 for that. This is obviously taller. We'll label it 10 feet. And then the width here, we'll just do 3 feet. All right, so if you are in my class, I am saying this is not negotiable. That means you have to do it. Every time that you approach an irregular solid or a rectangular prism, I want you labeling the length, width, and height. I do not want you multiplying the wrong numbers together. The point of this is that you know the dimensions, so let's get to it. All right, So when I look at prism A, I need to make sure that I know I'm going to be multiplying the length, width, and height. So again, width is how wide something is, length, how long it goes back into the paper, and height is how tall it is. So I say for prism A, do I have the height, length, and width? Can I find the volume of that? Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to keep with my blue for the purpose of trying to fumble with all of these. Okay, so over here, they've labeled 3 different dimensions. I want to make sure I identify them. I have my width, I have my height, and then I have my length, how far it's going back into the paper. Okay, so length, height, width. Now from there, it's just putting the numbers together and solving. So, like I said, I label with A, so I can keep track of what's going on here. So the volume of A, let's do it a little more fancy. The volume of A is length 4 times width 8 times height 6. And then I'm going to have to also solve the volume of B, which is length 4, width 3, height 10. So I'm going to make sure that I have all of the things done, and then I'm going to solve. Okay, so eraser. Give myself some more space here. Boys and girls, this can be mental math, or you can do it on paper. I'm going to do mental math because of how much space I do not have. So when I look at these, I'm going to do 4 times 8, which brings me to 32. And then, well, let's see, 32 times 6. So I have 6 times 30, which is 180. Don't forget about your great mental strategies. 6 times 2, which is 12. So 180 plus 12 is going to give me 192. So that is the volume of A, 192 feet cubed. Okay, watch my last video to understand why it's cubed. And then we have the volume of B. So we can do this in our head together because we're really good at multiplying by multiples of 10. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 10 is 120. But we're not done yet because all we've done so far is find the volume of A and the volume of B. The question's going to be, what is the volume of the entire irregular solid? And to do that, we have one last final step where we add A and B together. So you're going to take 192. You're going to combine it with 120. You can use the standard algorithm here. And we're going to label feet cubed. There's 3 different dimensions. Your 3 goes up here in the air after the feet, not before. So our final answer is 312 feet cubed. So a lot of steps here. First thing, label A, label B. Second thing I did is I made sure I found 3 dimensions, 3 different dimensions. For prism A, I found the length, the width, and the height. I labeled it LWH so that I know I'm putting the right numbers in my formula. Then I did the same thing with B. I made sure I had length, width, height, and then I was able to find the volume here. I found the volume of each one individually. Then the last step is to combine them at the end. Don't forget to combine them. I know it can be a lot of steps. We get lost. We've got to stick with it, okay? So, next thing I'm going to show you, so that's when they give you all the labels and it feels super easy. The next thing I'm going to show you is when they don't give you all of the labels. You have to figure out what the dimensions are, and that makes this a little bit trickier, okay? So I'm going to actually, I know I said I might attempt to draw lies. I'm not going to do that. So here we go. All right. before we continue on, I need to share my Triscuits. This is a rectangular prism, as you can see, okay? What I need for you to know about a rectangular prism is that opposite edges are the exact same length, okay? So, I'll turn it this way. I'm looking at the height of my Triscuit box. Here's the height, how tall it is. I turned it on side, just go with me. How tall it is here, how tall it is here. These are gonna be the same exact measurement. That's really important for what I'm about to show you, okay? Then we have the length and then the opposite length. They're gonna be the same exact measurement. So if I give you that this is 2 inches, this is automatically 2 inches. And then the same thing with the width. The width here is the same as the width here, is same as the width here, is same as the width here. So opposites are equal. Important to remember, okay? So let's say you're given your rectangular prisms again, and this time it's not separated for you. So I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go over this with the black marker and make it all one prism. All right, so I wish I'd done that better, but what can you do? Let's say it's not split into 2 prisms, and you cannot find the volume of this irregular solid without splitting it into 2 prisms. So I'm going to do some labeling, then we're going to figure out what's what. All right, so let's say that this is, I'm going to do an odd number so that no one thinks that we split things in half. We are not. We're going to just keep the numbers easy. We'll call this 10 feet again. We'll call the length 4 again. And then I am going to give you one more dimension. I'm not going to make it too easy. Let's do the width up here and call it 5 feet. I think I need one more. And the height here, let's call it 6 feet. All right, so you might be given a prism that looks like this. It's not split up into 2 different prisms. You have to do it, okay? Obviously, there's 2 ways we can split this. We can cut it here and have prism A and prism B, or we can cut it here and have prism A, the same as before, and prism B. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. What matters is that you keep track of the dimensions, and that's why I was making such a big deal about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and shop it going this way. Let's make it a little bit different. So I draw my own line because it's not given to me where the 2 different prisms are, as long as I make 2 different rectangular prisms. Okay? Just like last time, first steps, we are going to label prism A, and we're going to label prism B. Okay? Then, next step, always the next step, you need to find where you see the length, width, and height in each prism. So, let's use blue again for prism A. From here to here is how wide it is. I know that they've given me the width. From here to here is how long it is. I know that they've given me the length. From here to here is how high it is. I know that they've given me the height. So prism A, looking good right now. I know I can find the volume of this because I have the length, width, and height. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. This 10 here used to represent all the way from the top to the bottom. It represented all the way, oh no, I'm gonna ruin my marker. It represented all the way from here to here. But I cut that prism, I cut this height by making 2 different prisms. So the 10 feet represented from here to here. It is my job to figure out what this measurement is now. So let's come back to the Triscuits. Opposite edges are equal lengths. So if I know the height from here to here is 6 feet, then I know the height from here to here is 6 feet. And then I know that this piece, not drawn to scale, is 6 feet. No longer have the 10 feet measurement there. I have my kids cross it off when they cut the line so they know it's no longer 10 feet. So if this from here to here used to be 10 feet, and I took a little piece 6 feet, sorry it's not drawn to scale, and I took the 6 feet out, what would we be left with? We'd be left with 10 minus 6, which is 4. So now, I did this really close to that. So now I know my height for prism B is 4 feet. So again, since I had cut this here, I used opposite sides to figure out what the height this piece was, and that allowed me to do 10 minus 6, and I'm left over with 4 feet. So I'm going to give that an H. Sorry, it's so close to the edge. I know my height for prism B. Okay? The other measurement they gave us here was how wide it was, so I know that they've given me the width for prism B. So I have the width and the height. What's missing, friends? We don't know the length. So back to the Triscuit box. I know opposites are equal, so I'm going to find, did they give me length anywhere? Yes, they gave me length. So I know that this length is 4. I know that this length is 4. I know that the length here is 4, which gets me to prism B. So I know the length of prism B is 4 feet. How did I figure that out? I located where the problem had given me the length. I know opposite sides are equal, so 4 is equal to this opposite side, is equal to this opposite side, is equal to this opposite side. So now I know my length. And that's why I made a huge deal about making sure we labeled the different dimensions. You have to figure out what they are so that you can solve. So now we have the length, width, and height of prism A. We have the length, width, and height of prism B. We find the volume of each first. So prism A, the volume of A, we are going to do length, 4 times width, 9 times height, 6. Okay? Oh, I write too big, so let me just do that. All right, so 4 times 9, 36, times 6. 6 times 30 is 180. 6 times 6 is 36. So what are we dealing with? 216 feet cubed. Okay? That is the volume of A, 216 feet cubed. Sorry, there's a lot of numbers by the end of this, and this board is very, very small. Okay, so we found the volume of A. Next, you're going to find the volume of B. So we're going to do length is 4 times width is 5 times height is 4. So I have 4 times 5 is 20. I still have to multiply the 4. 20 times 4 is 80 feet cubed. And we're still not done after all of this work. We have to combine the volumes. So we have 216 plus 80, 296 feet cubed. So a lot of steps when you're finding the volume of an irregular prism. First, you have to identify the dimensions of each. If the shape is not cut for you, you need to cut it into 2 rectangular prisms. That's a little bit of work if you have a dimension you need to change. You find the length, width, and height of each. Label, 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 LWH. I don't want you multiplying the height 2 times. It's very important you identify the 3 different dimensions. Once you've done that, it's just solving. Find the volume of A, find the volume of B, combine them together to find the total volume. And that, all my friends, is how you find the volume of an irregular solid. This video builds on finding the volume of a rectangular prism, so make sure you watch that video if you're confused how I did length, width, and height, how I came up with feet cubed. All that stuff is explained in the previous video. If you have any questions, you know to email me, connellymathathome@gmail.com. If you have my phone number because you're in my class right now, You are allowed to text me with questions, and I hope you learned and enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, and share. Let's get as many friends learning as possible. Okay?